My name is Michelle. I'm a model and actress from Ipswich. I am a Christian by birth, but not a practicing one. I'm more of a spiritual person.
My name is Yavin Liberatus Fuzi Akpodono. I'm a politics student from King's College London, and in my spare time I train as an amateur boxer. In terms of my religious beliefs, I would class myself as an agnostic individual.
Muslim culture as a whole was very alien to me prior to taking part in this documentary, so I most definitely had no idea who Hussein was, or why so many people were engaged in remembrance for his death.
I do have a lot of Muslim friends, and we do debate and discuss religion actively. However, I knew next to nothing about Hussein and was very much looking forward to delving deeper into an aspect of Islam that is not known to many.
At first, I was slightly sceptical and nervous about becoming involved with this project. I hadn't had a lot of exposure to the Muslim faith growing up, so I didn't really know what to expect. Nevertheless, I convinced myself to go in with an open mind.
Islam as a religion has been subject to a lot of scrutiny over the last few years, so I was eager to enhance my understanding of it. And what better way than to engage with the members of this faith during a sacred time of the Islamic calendar.
For centuries, Hussein, son of Ali and the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has acted as a symbol of hope and bravery for millions across the globe. A figure revered by Muslims for his stand against injustice and subservience to God. Annually, Muslims gather in their religious centers to perform morning rituals and acts of devotion to remember Hussein and his supreme sacrifice. Culture has played a significant role in influencing the way in which Hussein is mourned in each community. It is not a command enshrined within the law of Islam, and therefore the methods of commemoration adopted by various communities have evolved over time. How have these rituals been carried out and continued amid Western society? And more importantly, how does the wider community perceive the traditional commemoration of Hussein? We follow two individuals from outside the Muslim faith to observe their first-hand experience of the first 10 days of the mourning period. The month of Muharram is the first month of the lunar calendar, and it is the month in which Hussein was killed. Many women will hold private events for mourning during this month, and adopt a traditional dress code in black to symbolize their mark of grief. They recite rhythmic eulogies in Arabic and beat their chest and head to the notes of the poems.
They were mostly Iraqi and Muslim women there. There was lots of grief in the room, and it was very difficult to understand at first. I couldn't understand why they were so upset and why they was crying, but it soon became apparent that lots of these women had lost loved ones in the past during the war, that, you know, their fathers, brothers, family members. So then I could understand the grief.
I can honestly say I've not experienced that before. It was almost a little bit surreal. Everybody was obviously all the same. They was all very friendly. But there was a lot of sadness in people's faces, I could see that. So walk in, because I haven't been or experienced anything like this before, I didn't actually feel nervous, maybe because I have my head covering. But all in all, it was a nice feeling. It was a real feeling of togetherness, a lot of love and good energy in the room, although it is a period of mourning. It's just everybody coming together, which I feel is really important.
Devoted young Muslims who have grown up in the UK have adapted events of commemorations in ways they can understand them better, and therefore organise private events in English inviting friends and colleagues to share those somber days.
Immediately when I arrived, I felt a sense of brotherhood, and as I inquired further, I understood that this was a private event where the person who was hosting it had invited his close friends and family so that they could get together and share in the story of Hussein.
But he had a lot of love and inclination towards Ahlul Bayt.
The Imam was telling a story about the importance of knowing your Imam. And even though there was a lot of Arabic terminology used, which made it a bit harder for me to understand, by the intensity in his voice that was rising, I could tell that this was an important story that resonated with a lot of people. And you could tell that the emotion in the room was very heightened, especially towards the end, but just by watching the people's reactions, etc. And it was quite enjoyable to be in that presence, to feel the power that they were feeling at the same time.
Even if you die, you will be granted access to leave your grave and join the Imam.
صعب خويا الفراق وعلي مهان النار بثيابي تشب حق عاتب وانت حب النار بثيابي تشب جفني هاميل يا ابو فاضل.
At the end of the service, somebody stood up and recited a piece of poetry in Arabic, and it was very beautiful. Again, even though I did not understand particularly what was being said, you could tell by the energy and the cadence in his voice that what was being said was it was quite an emotional story. And also you could, if you looked around the room, you could tell by other people's reactions how it was resonating with them and how it was making them feel. That it was a very deep emotion that he was provoking in them with those words. And following from that, people began to beat their chests. And then once one person started, it kind of spread, and more people were doing it around the room. And again, it was all very rhythmic, and it was in time with the words. And then that became the only thing that was in the room, and that was something quite profound. I hadn't seen that anywhere before. So it was an interesting way to, especially as I was there, I was able to get somebody to translate the story that the person had told. And it was an interesting reaction to the story that had been told. It's not something that I had seen before. However, you could tell again that this is something that people were doing out of passion, and this was their way of commemorating that particular event. So it was there were many raw emotions in the room, but it was an interesting way to see them be expressed.
Hussein as a personality that transcends time and space. We can have a better opportunity to understand Hussein from a multitude of perspectives. But if you make Hussein someone that is basically confined to one particular place, or one particular space, or one particular line of thought, then we have definitely missed the very heart and spirit of his mission.
Hussein's sacrifice was a cry to support the weak and vulnerable, to give those that have lost their rights hope again. This indeed has been adopted by the organisation Who is Hussein, who organise weekly food donation drives for the homeless people in central London.
When I first arrived at the homeless drive, I was so surprised by how many people were actually there, the homeless people. There was so many. I was also very surprised by how many volunteers had turned up. All of these people had come here to make a difference to these people's lives. There were nurses there was dental hygienists. They was all on hand to help and offer their services to the homeless.
There is a dentist. Have you been inside to have your teeth checked? Sorry? Have you been inside? You can go and have a checkup. Go to this dentist.
No?
I don't have. They can send you somewhere to get this done, put your tooth back in perhaps, have a checkup. Not just here right now, but they can give you some information of a dentist. If you go in there and have a checkup, they'll let you know where to go.
There was even a dental nurse there who was actually showing the homeless people how to brush their teeth correctly. They was also handing out food, drinks and blankets. And it was a really beautiful experience of coming together and helping so many people, these unfortunate people.
So what do you get out of all of this, helping people? Because it clearly suits you. You're actually blossoming. It's like you're thriving off it.
It's just like, for me, it's just following Imam Hussein's legacy.
Yes.
And it's not just, what kind of character was he,
No, yes.
Such an amazing character to be inspired by. And for me, it's his character traits that stick out. How can I use my skills, being inspired by Hussein, how can I use my skills and give back?
I'm surprised by the amount of homeless people that there are here, and certainly by the volunteers and the organisation. A few of the homeless people made references that it's very similar to Jesus Christ, the teachings is very similar, the Muslims, and it's just completely struck me just by how much love, if anything,